Welcome everyone to our what I'm now calling monthly mindfulness. I used to call it mindfulness refresher. So it's basically the same thing. It's always on the second Wednesday of the month from 12:30 to 1:15. And if you signed up through LMS, or if some of you had gotten the invite from me directly, it should be on your calendar, but you can always do that either way. Let me know or sign up on LMS, or going to tell other folks about it as well. So today I am recording this, as you probably heard, and I am going to post the recording and the slides on Thrive. It's under live and recorded resources. But I think what I'll do is I'll send out to everybody the link afterwards, just so that you have it. And I know this is lunchtime, so if you might be eating, that's fine. We will do a couple of practices. But that's not a problem. And if you have to leave early, you can always watch the rest of it at another time. And again, you will have the slides. So welcome, everybody. Good to see some familiar faces, and glad you could join me. We have a nice crowd so far of 18. That's great. And let's get started. So first step is just to mention, this is a basic taste of mindfulness. So what if I offered you a simple way to relax, sharpen your focus and concentration, decrease stress and anxiety, increase contentment, connect better with folks around you, and may even help you sleep better. And it's free and it's portable. What would you say to that? Right? Sounds like a pretty good deal, doesn't it? Well, actually, mindfulness can really give all of that and more. It does take some practice. It does take some regular commitment to the process and the practice, and I'll talk about that as well. So, but what I like to do in the beginning of these is just to start with a mindful pause. Taking a quick mindful pause is one of the easiest ways to interject mindfulness into your day. So, when do you do that? Well, let's do that right now. This will just take maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So, the first step is just simply to turn your attention inward. If it helps to close your eyes to do that, you can do that if that's comfortable, but you don't have to. These pauses are meant to be kind of done on the go while you're busy during the day, even working. So the first step is just to turn your attention inward and just feel your body in whatever position it's in. I'm assuming most of you are sitting, but whatever position you're in, just feel the body in that position. Just if you are sitting, just feel the body being supported by the chair. Just feel the feet on the floor. And just feel the sit bones in the chair and the torso and the arms and hands and position of your back and shoulders, and feel free to make an adjustment. What you want to do is try to find a position that's relatively comfortable and relaxed. So feel free to move around a little bit and adjust that. You also want to be in a position where you can pay attention. In other words, basically just sit and know you're sitting. And then the next step is to now feel the body breathing. So be aware of the breath as it flows in and out of the body. Just follow the cycle of one full breath from the in-breath to the out-breath, and just notice what that feels like. And let's take a couple of deeper breaths. So lengthening the inhale, breathing in deep. And you can breathe out through the nose or the mouth, whatever is more comfortable for you. And as you breathe out, a couple more times, long in-breath, longer out-breath. It helps to make that out-breath long and slow. When you do exhale, let the body relax. Let the shoulders relax. Let the muscles in the face relax. Anywhere else where there might be obvious tension, just let it all soften and relax. And allow yourself to arrive here and now. And both the breath and the body can serve as anchors to the present moment. that you can come back to at any point in time during a busy day or when you're doing different things. The breath and the body are kind of your home base. So when you're ready, if your eyes have been closed, you can open them up, and that finishes that quick mindful pause. And as you can see, it's really quick. It's just easy to do. If you're new to this, just try to let go of any expectations. I'm going to give you some guidance. If you've been doing this for a while, I do recognize a number of names. Welcome back, and I'm glad you could join me. And this will be a pretty basic introductory course. We're going to cover mindfulness practices, how they can help us with self-care and even during the workday, integrating it into our daily lives. Talk a little bit about the benefits of mindfulness, even a little bit of the science behind how that works, and give you a few tastes of the basic practices so that you can start if you haven't already started. But maybe you also want to kind of just continue to deepen your practice or reinforce the current practice that you have going. So I'm going to provide you with the ways to do that. So there's lots of different practices that we have already, and I'll show you that. There are links to our meditation page, for example. We do phone meditations. There are apps you can use. So lots of different ways to keep this going. So let's start with a definition. So Jon Kabat-Zinn is widely considered one of the most influential mindfulness teachers in America anyway. He brought a lot of concepts, along with a lot of folks did back in the 70s and 80s. And he started something called mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is an 8-week course, and it's widely considered to be sort of the gold standard of courses out there. So his definition is paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So breaking it down, paying attention can really include your focus, concentration, and your awareness. But we have to do that with some purpose. We have to really pay attention deliberately. We have to find some time and some place to do that. And we have to make an intention to do that. It's like any other practice, it's like trying to learn a musical instrument or a language or get into an exercise or a nutrition regime. We need to do this with some regularity and some commitment. So with intention and with some purpose is important. And in the present moment, that's really what it's all about. So we're trying to focus our attention on what's happening right now. And you probably already noticed in the past few minutes while I've been talking that your mind has wandered. And that's kind of just what our minds do. We'll talk about that, but this particular practice can really help us train our attention and help us come back from those distractions. And let's face it, we're in a world full of distractions these days. The last part is probably the trickiest. We try to do this non-judgmentally. So in other words, when we notice we're applying labels, we notice we have maybe a lot of commentary about what we like or we dislike, or what's good or bad or right or wrong with. And let's face it, there are a lot of things that are right or wrong with the world around us, right? So it's easy to pay attention, and it's easy to sort of get sucked into that negativity bias. What we try to do is meet the moment as it is, non-judgmentally, without applying those labels. And that takes a little bit of practice, but we have time to do that. So here's a couple more definitions. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. So first of all, just being aware of what's happening up there, whatever mental activity there is. But also then when we do get carried away by it, then what happens? And then realizing that we've gotten swept away and almost in a sense hijacked, this particular practice can help us come back into the present moment. Here's another one, which is nice. Paying attention to present experience with open curiosity and a willingness to be with what is. And that's by Diana Winston from the UCLA Mindful Awareness Research Center. The first one, as you can see, by Dan Harris, author, and has a great podcast as well. there's a couple of good books out there. So there's lots of resources are available to you, but just trying to give you a good overview and some highlights. So with this image, what I'd like to do is just jump right into our first practice. And this one will be relatively short, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And it'll give us an opportunity to, again, explore the mind and the body a little bit further. And we'll learn about anchoring through the body again, as well as being aware of our breathing and coming back to the breath when our mind wanders, which it will. And don't worry about that. So let's do it. Let's start. And again, you can close your eyes, or if you prefer to keep them slightly open, that's okay too. Whatever you're most comfortable with, that's sort of the bottom line here. And I would suggest sitting in a way that's comfortable and relaxed. So finding a position that's wherever you are, I would usually recommend feet flat on the floor, sitting in a way that relatively upright, but not uptight. You want to be comfortable and relaxed, and you want to be able to pay attention. So if you think you might fall asleep, you might want to keep your eyes slightly open and, sit up straight and just so you can pay attention. But it's that nice balance of being relaxed and attentive. And the first thing we'll do is, as we did before, is just bring your attention into the body. So in other words, sit and know you're sitting. How do you know you're sitting? What are some of the signals that the body sends you that make you aware that you're sitting? Just take a moment to explore that. The sensations that help you to know that you're in a sitting position. Sounds basic, it sounds kind of silly in a way, but just bringing your attention, as we did before, to your feet, connecting you to the ground. Take a moment to explore that sense of connection, groundedness. Let your awareness flow on up through your legs, feeling the length and volume of your legs, and then be aware of the lower part of your body sitting, sit bones, the buttocks, the pelvic area, and the hips and the lower back, all being supported by the chair. Feel the position of your torso and your back, and maybe scan through the belly and up into the chest. Feel the back. Feel the spine supporting you. Being aware now all the way up into the shoulders. Let the shoulders relax and soften. Bring your awareness down into the arms and the hands. Let them rest comfortably and effortlessly wherever they are. Bringing your awareness all the way up into the head. Let the jaw be relaxed. The muscles around the face and the eyes. And now just open up your attention to feel the whole body here. Now the whole body kind of zooming out, being aware of the body sitting and the space around the body. And just noticing the field of sensations within the body. Might be a sense of aliveness and pulsation, or temperature of the body, or feeling the clothes on the skin, just being aware of the total body. And then you might notice the body breathing. And now I'll keep our attention on the breath itself. And again, as we did before, we'll take a couple of nice deeper breaths. It can help us feel the breath more directly, as well as help relax us a bit. So long in breath, and an even longer, slower out breath. Do that a couple more times. Deep in breath, long, slow out breath. Allow the body to relax. Allow the breath then to resume to a very natural, easy rhythm. And just with your attention, follow your breathing. And you might pick a spot. You might notice the breath more directly at the nose or the windpipe or the chest or the belly. If you feel the breath more directly at one spot, just keep your attention there. And feel the sensations of your breathing in and out. And I'm going to leave you with a little bit of silence, and you just keep following that gentle rhythm of your breathing. If it helps, you can note to yourself in on the in-breath, out on the out-breath. You might try that. Or just feel the sensations of the breath. Now, you may have noticed by now that the mind has a tendency to wander. And so if you've noticed that the mind is carried off in thought, that's okay. Trick is to notice that, acknowledge where the mind went off to, let it go, and then just gently bring your attention back to the next breath. And if you notice also that you've given yourself a message like, oh, I'm not doing this right, or I can't pay attention, or whatever it might be, see, that's one of those judgments. See if you could just let go of that and just with kindness, just bring your attention back to the breathing. And every time your mind wanders or every time you get distracted, just come back without any judgment, without giving yourself a hard time. And every time we do this, we reconnect with that anchor. We come back to the present moment. We strengthen that quality of attention. You can also use the feeling of the body as an anchor. So either way, the breath or the body, whichever you feel more comfortable with, but they're both sort of a home base to come back to arrive back in presence. Now, before we close, just take a moment to notice what this feels like, to sit here kind of doing nothing on purpose. Hopefully you were maybe able to let go of all the to-dos of the day. Just notice what this type of awareness, this quality of awareness has been like, this simple practice has been like for you. No right or wrong, just check in with yourself. Continue to breathe. Continue to feel the body. And when you're ready, we'll finish and you can open your eyes. They've been closed. And we'll finish the exercise. Sometimes I finish with a gong or a bell. It doesn't come through too well on Zoom, so I don't use it on Zoom. But take a moment to reconnect with your surroundings, maybe move a little bit, wiggle your fingers and toes, stretch, whatever is helpful as we finish that exercise for now. And I'll keep talking. I want to talk about this cute little cartoon here, but would love to hear what that was like for you. So if you want to share in the chat, even just a word or two of what that experience was like, even if you're experienced doing this, I'd love to get some feedback for you. So the cartoon sort of illustrates what happens when our mind is full, when we're on autopilot. What usually happens is we get full of all the worries, because what happens on autopilot is we tap into that network of the brain that's called the default mode network. And that usually is happening when we're doing nothing or when we're just sitting and there's no focus for our mind. And so the default mode network is sort of usually taps us into the things that aren't going so well, the things that we're concerned about, all the worries. And as you can see in this little bubble here, the stresses of the day, the bills to pay, what's going on with the kids, and all that stuff, all the to-dos for work and the overload that we have. And it's easy to kind of get on autopilot in that way. So this exercise and all of these are not meant to clear the mind, because we can't really clear or empty the mind. We can't really stop thinking, but we can become more aware of our thoughts. And we'll do another exercise before we close. And but we can get to this point where things begin to settle. It's almost like a snow globe. You shake it up and there's all this snow flurrying around. It's like our thoughts, but we can, as we meditate and we slow things down, our breathing, we focus on our breath and our body, all those sort of settle down to the bottom, and we begin to see a little bit more clearly, begin to be more in touch with the present moment. So we're not as consumed by, or if we get carried away by those things, we can more easily come back to the present moment, sort of like what the dog is doing in the cartoon here. And that's it. That's what it comes down to. Now, I see a bunch of comments here. I want to say thanks for putting these in here. Should just see what some of the relaxing, a couple of them. I like the redirection of the picture. Relaxing, peaceful, very good. Connected, very relaxing, especially with the craziness of closing one year. Exactly. Helps me to focus. And all of those things can be attained with some of these practices. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But some of these words are some of the ways that you might be able to get a sense of when you do some regular practice. I'll just put them up here. Now, not saying you're going to achieve all this, especially in one meditation, but it's like anything, it takes a little bit of practice as we do these things, and with some regular practice. And that's what I would encourage you to do. Like any good, healthy habit, with some regular practice, you can begin to achieve some of those states of flow or being in the present moment or whatever it is. And the other thing that you can do is, just go back to that for a second, is when you start a meditation, we didn't do this before, but you can think about what is it that you intend for this period of meditation practice. You might intend to be less stressed, or you might want to be more focused, or you might want to be whatever it is. What is your intention for sitting to do this practice? And I might even just ask you that question. What is your intention for taking this class and some of the other classes that I offer? What do you hope to get out of them? And think about that. It's not so rigid as a New Year's resolution, but it gives you some direction. And you might even think, how do you want to feel when you do some of these things? What is the underlying why for getting in touch with some of these meditative and increasing your present moment awareness? So a couple of things about what mindfulness is not. Again, Jon Kabat-Zinn, it's not just about relaxation, okay? It's really much more than that. Yes, we do it to relax, but it really can, as I mentioned with some of those words there, it can help us do a lot more than just relax. It gives us quite a bit of insight. And this type of meditation that I'm teaching is called insight-oriented meditation. Not about trying to get anywhere else or achieve something special. So there's not like any special state that we must achieve. Even sometimes it's hard to be relaxed because our minds just don't allow us to do that. So we just try to enter each period of meditation with an open mind, with being curious about what's going on in the present moment without feeling we have to achieve a special state. And it's not just a collection of techniques. Once we start doing it with some regularity, and start doing it in formal and informal ways, it's a way of being. It's a way of living your life as if it really matters in the present moment. Deepak Chopra talks about some myths. I have articles on these too, by the way. If anybody would like them, just shoot me an email. One myth is you have to quiet your mind. I addressed this a little bit. It's really impossible to stop your thinking or empty your mind. But we can learn to be a little bit more curious about what's going on up there so that we realize some of the patterns of thinking and some of the conditioned ways that we automatically kind of get attached to those thoughts, and we get pulled around and swept away by some of those thoughts and emotions. Another myth is that it takes years of dedicated practice. Well, it does. It helps if you continue with any, like, again, like going to the gym or any other fitness regime, for example. It helps if you keep it up. But research has shown that even in as little as a few weeks, you can gain some of the benefits. And sometimes we say, well, I just don't have the time. It's hard to fit it in. And yes, that's one of the biggest challenges. It is hard to fit in even a few minutes a day. But if you think of it sort of like as a self-care regime, sort of like brushing your teeth, it's something we take for granted. We brush our teeth, a couple times a day, right? Well, 1,000 years ago or whatever, the origins of man, that wasn't part of their self-care routine. But now it's become part of that. Or if you think about, people jog or they do other forms of exercise. Those are things that we have come to learn to do to take care of ourselves. And this is really a small thing that you can do that can have a profound effect on many areas of your life. So I won't go too much into this. There are a number of studies that have been done. Excuse me, getting over a cold here. And what they've learned, and these are actually very well researched and controlled, random control studies, have shown really amazing effects on all these things that I've listed here. But for our purposes and the kind of work that we do, I think that it really helps us with stress, stepping back from stress and not to be as reactive. We can be more thoughtful and responsive about how we relate to stress, but also can help us with focus, being able to concentrate, being able to come back from distraction. So there's less mind wandering, more mental clarity, and as you can see, a number of other things. And there's a couple of links here. So if you do download the slides, you can read up on those if you're interested in some of the studies. But there have been a lot of studies that really bear all of this stuff out. Now, there are other types of meditations. So in the one that we did before, it was basically a sitting meditation focusing on the breath. That was the last part of it. But in the beginning, we did sort of a modified body scan. And a body scan is where you really just focus on the body from head to toe. And you take each part and you just notice each part. You just be aware of what is going on in the body, the sensations that are present, even if they're unpleasant. And that's part of the practice of noticing what's going on and being aware of, oh, I really don't like that ache in my lower back. And it's really something that I, would love to get rid of. And it's just, we have all those kinds of, that inner chatter that comes up with all sorts of things that are going on in the body, right? Or we don't like the way the body looks or the way the body feels or whatever it might be, the expectations that society puts on our bodies. So we try to meet those and we try to see what is coming through with some objectivity in a sense. And we try to notice those opinions and that internal chatter and those judgments that we have, and we try to let them go, even just to be aware of them at first, and then try to let them go and just see things as they really are in the moment. Now, there's also lots of activities you can do with movement, exercise, stretching, yoga. There's mindful walking. It's a really great exercise. And I'll show you a number of links that you can follow up on if you want to try some of those as well. But just to point out there are different kinds of practices. And there's the what we might call informal practice. There's everyday kinds of things that we do, but first I'll just mention the word stop, which is an acronym for S is to stop when we feel a little bit stressed or overwhelmed. T is to take a deep, mindful breath. This can be done in about a minute, by the way. The O is then to observe internally. Observe your thoughts, observe your feelings, what's going on emotionally, and observe what's going on in the body. Continue to breathe, keep that mindful breathing up. And then the P is to proceed with that sort of new awareness. And that helps us sort of interrupt the stress cycle and be able to then move on with that more mindful awareness. Now, these are all the routine activities that you can do that you can bring mindful awareness to. And I always use the kind of hand washing, but it could be any one of these things, and you might try a different thing every day. So usually when we're doing these things, we can multitask. And the problem, as you might know, is that when we try to multitask with conscious things that really require our attention, we're really toggling back and forth in our brain. And that's actually quite exhausting and taxing on the brain itself. Now, yes, you can do different things while you're doing routine activities. When you're doing the laundry, you can do different things. You can be problem solving. But what I would challenge you to do is simply pay attention to that one thing while you're doing that one thing. Okay? That's all you have to do. So when you're doing the dishes, just do the dishes. Pay attention to the sensory experience of all those things. You're gonna time travel. You're gonna think about the future. You're gonna think about the past. That's going to happen. Our minds are sort of designed that way. When that happens, just bring your attention back to the present moment, to the activity that you're doing. Another thing you do is practice mindful eating. And this particular link takes you to a brief little exercise that, again, when you get the slides, you can try it out. But mindful eating is really simply just savoring their experience, slowing down, taking a moment with each bite, really tasting the food, not doing other stuff. Yeah, I mean, I know we tend to, even many of us work through lunch and other meals, but just try to really enjoy the meal and try to take time and not get carried away with all the other to-dos that are going on in our lives. All right, so I like to use this particular cartoon. We're going to pause before I go into it. We still have a good 10, 12 minutes before we close. Any questions or anything that, if I've said something that's been confusing or you want me to clarify, it's anything at all? I like that last comment. Nice to just take a moment for myself. And that's really what it is. We're kind of giving ourselves the gift of taking a few moments just for ourselves. We're very busy. We have lots and lots to do. So it's just doing that. But any questions before I move on? Okay, so wanted to run you through another quick experience. This time, we're going to be aware of our thoughts. This time, instead of when we notice thoughts arise, like we did before, we notice thoughts, we bring our attention back to the breath. This time, I want you to be a little more curious about the thoughts that pop up. And you might notice the types of thoughts that they are. Maybe there's a planning thought or a worry thought, or whatever it might be. So when we get into it, we'll still bring mindful awareness with the breath. We'll still do that, but we'll also take a look, be a little bit more curious about what's sometimes called sticky thoughts. And, we have something like, they estimate we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. And many of them are repetitive thought patterns. So this helps us kind of break that rigid pattern of our thinking, those conditioned patterns, those tapes running in the background. So let's do the practice. So take a moment again to just settle your body. Again, you can close your eyes if you like, but you don't have to, but keep a soft gaze down in front of you. Bring your awareness into the body again. Just feel that body being grounded. Take a moment to just feel the body being supported. Feel that sense of groundedness. And again, we'll just feel the body breathing. You could pick a particular spot, like at the nose or the chest or the belly, or you could just feel a general sense of rising and expanding as you breathe in, or kind of contracting and subsiding as you breathe out. Just feel the breath flowing in and out of the body. Now, the breath and the body are always there that we can return to if we kind of really get swept away. But what I'd like you to do is now just, and I'll give you a little bit of silence, is just be aware of thoughts that arise. You can still feel the breath, but be aware of any thinking that's going on. Thoughts are just simply mental events. Maybe you can notice the type of thought. You could label it. Yes, that's a planning thought, or something I got to do later today, or what was that thing that happened in the meeting this morning, or whatever it is. Just notice those thoughts arise. You might stay with it if you can. Notice them sort of pass through. Usually they do. They will connect with maybe another thought or a train of thinking. Just be curious. Notice what's going on in that busy mind. You might find yourself completely lost in thought, swept away by a whole chain of associations and carried somewhere to a different time and place in the mind. And if so, that's okay. Just be aware of that, notice it, acknowledge it. Then you might want to return to your breath or the body as an anchor, and then open up again to being aware of thinking. And realize you don't have to do anything about any of this. We're really just observing. See if you can step back from all that and just observe thoughts come and go without getting pulled into them. You might notice the urge to want to do something or the impulse to act on that thought. So just notice that if that's the case. But you don't have to do anything or fix anything. This is really a time to just observe, relax. Might take another deep breath. And watch your thinking. Now, you also might notice some emotional content attached to some of these thoughts. Often they're linked together, and that's okay. So that's something to be aware of as well. What do you notice? Can you notice the beginning of a thought and then how the thought sort of leaves? Can you notice a new thought arising? Can you notice sometimes there's even a little bit of space in between thoughts? Okay, you can let go of that being aware of thoughts for the moment and just allow yourself to rest. No effort right now, just rest in awareness, rest in the present moment, rest with your breath. And again, just notice what that was like. A little bit of a different focus there. See what that feels like for you. Checking in with yourself. And when you're ready, again, you can open the eyes as we finish that exercise. And again, just maybe move a little bit, or whatever is helpful to your mind and your body as we finish these things. And I'd love to hear again any feedback that you might have about that experience. This is where some of the insight comes in, folks, right? We can become more aware of what's going on up there and the kinds of, as I said, the kinds of patterns of thoughts. And sometimes we get pulled and pushed around by those thoughts as they come and go, and we're not even aware of it. And so that's what you can even spend a whole, in fact, when I do the 6-session classes that I do several times over the year, we spend a whole class on thinking and what it's all about. So yeah, so that's kind of one of the basic skills that I think that can be very helpful. All right, so love this comment. It's been over a year since I've meditated, and it's really great to rediscover and spend some time with myself. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Thank you so much, Andy, for that comment. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to fall out of the habit, and when that happens, it's sort of like riding a bicycle. It's easy to get back on. You don't really lose your balance, something that we always have. So if you have lost the practice or you haven't been doing it for a while, not a problem. Just get back on the bike and get back into it. And you can realize that, yeah, it is a little bit like, kind of like getting to know yourself again. And it's all this internal view of what's going on, which we sometimes neglect and we don't take a look at. So just some ways to think about at work, how to remind yourself, because that's one of the biggest things. We do fall out of the practice. And so if you have some things that you can tie your practices to, link them to. So here are just some suggestions. There's lots of things that you can do. So, when you're doing emails or something on the computer, you can take that quick, deep breath, reread, use a password that reminds you, breathe mindfully or feel into the body while you're waiting. There's lots of those little transition waiting periods. Notice your body, your posture, contact your feet make with the floor. Send yourself a reminder. Some of the apps have reminders that you can send right to your phone or your watch or whatever you might use for those kinds of things. But those are just some suggestions. And just for, you probably know about these, but again, we have a whole page on the Carillon website, which is our EFR provider. I haven't talked about employee and family resources, but I think most of you know about the program. But when I send you the link, you'll see where some information is on that as well. So we have a whole page of guided meditations. There's about 30 of them on this page, and that's an active link. We still do the phone meditations, but basically what it comes down to is to make a commitment to practice. Make a commitment like anything else. Might help to get a mindful buddy. You might want to use an app. We have the M Life app through Carillon. It'll be on that same website. Insight Timer is a very good one, but another excellent one is called Healthy Minds. It's Insight Timer and Healthy Minds are free. M-Life is free for our employee population, but Healthy Minds is an excellent one. It's all research-based from the University of Wisconsin. And you get a series of lessons, but then also practices. So really great app. I've been using it a lot lately myself. And again, we do have these monthly classes, so hopefully you can join us in the months to come. Phone meditations, we still do these. We have lots of rooms, so feel free to call in. Just takes 10 minutes. We do these every day of the week. There's the phone number and access code. And, I hope you can join us. We can always use some more folks on that line. And then there's a phone number you can call. There are 3 meditations on the phone number that if you just want to call from any phone, and then that's the same online resource. So just before we close, just to remind you might have seen this quote before that I often use: to experience peace does not mean your life is always blissful. Even these practices is not going to always make our life blissful, but it means that we can tap into those peaceful, blissful moments and that get into that peaceful state of mind, even when our life is most hectic and chaotic. And I think that's one of the most helpful things, is that the more we kind of train the mind and the body, we can tap into that when we most need it, when we're having one of those craziest, most hectic days. So with that, I will say thank you so much, and hope you're all well. Hope you're having a great start of the new year, and hope you can join me on some of those other ways to keep your mindful practice going. And I see some of your thanks coming through there. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to stop the recording. I will hang on for a minute or two if anybody has any questions. And again, just to remind you also, I am going to send you the link for the recording in the slides. Thank you all so much for joining me. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn.
All the best. You're welcome.